Hello, Rank Squad. When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Aviator Nation, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand and brilliant marketing, but an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the businesses, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, who are home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning that there are way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going... So, if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. It's no secret, businesses that want to grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ranks, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ranks to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/ranks.
You know where your business would be without you. Imagine where it could go with more of you. Well, with Wix, you can create a website with more of your vision, your voice, your expertise. Wix gives you the freedom to truly own your brand and do it on your own, with full customization and advanced AI tools that help turn your ideas into reality. Grow your business into your online brand. Because without you, your business is just business as usual. Go to Wix.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. That's ziprecruiter.com/zip. ziprecruiter.com/zip.
Profiting from the financial markets has never been easier. TrueTrade introduces the world's first one-click AI-assisted trading platform. No trading experience? No problem. Just purchase their platform, connect your trading account, download their mobile app, and turn it on. It's that simple. No need to worry about what or when to trade. With just one click, their AI software handles everything for you. No learning, no experience, no headaches. Whether you're trading a single account or managing an entire portfolio, TrueTrade software runs on autopilot with its AI risk management protecting your downside. Don't have funds to trade with? No problem. TrueTrade offers an unprecedented money-back guarantee on their software. Plus, get a guarantee of at least $300,000 in tradable funds. You keep the profits. Join thousands worldwide who are already profiting from their AI-driven trade technology. Are you ready to step up your cash flow? Head over to TrueTrade.io. That's TRUTRADE.io. That's TRUTRADE.io. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. See terms and conditions.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you.
For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just go to getcopperhead.com. That's getcopperhead.com for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Getcopperhead.com.
Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Hello, this is international football commentator Derek Ray, and you're listening to the Ranks FC podcast.
Hello, Rank Squad, and welcome to Ranks FC. It's your favorite transatlantic football podcast, back for another week and back at full capacity. My name is Jack Collins, and I'll be your host today. And joining me all the way across the water in San Diego, it's Mr. Dean Jones. How you doing, mate?
Oh, I'm good. Welcome back, mate. Welcome back. I mean, let's not beat about the bush. The thing we all love today is the return of Jack Collins. It just wasn't right sitting here on my own last week. Felt a bit gloomy and sad, mate. Sun was shining, but there were clouds still hovering above me.
You know what? I was very proud of you. I didn't know what you were going to do with last week's episode.
Nor did I. I don't know if you could tell that.
I did enjoy the end of part one where you're like, right, I'm off for a cup of tea. I'll see you in a minute. That was my favourite part of the entire episode. I got to be honest.
The truth is, I had one. I needed a breather. And so I actually stopped. I pressed pause on the record. And I went and I made a cup of tea, and I genuinely sat down, watched a bit of, what did I watch? Watched one of those like emergency room shows, you know, like Casualty 24/7. I sat down and watched one of those for 10 minutes with my cup of tea while I processed and thought about what I was going to exactly talk about, and came back. I was like, okay, I finished my cup of tea, and I was like, legit, that's what I did.
Fair enough. I mean, I was editing it on a sunbed, right? And I was sitting there with my Super Bock in one hand, laptop on my lap, everyone else was smashing around in the pool. And I was like, I wonder where we get to with this. I loved it. I had a great time editing it. So thank you very much for keeping the streak alive. That means that we haven't missed a week, or it continues. The streak continues. It's the start of BR Football Ranks, I believe.
We've never missed.
We
never missed a beat. I did get a few messages from people who were like, thanks. And I was like, it's for us too, you know, it's pride, it's...
Streaks alive.
Yeah, it is also therapy, like genuinely sometimes. The kids are off for summer. You've seen my face sometimes across the last 2 months. So to sit here and chat about football is a privilege.
It is.
Anyway, mate, let's see what you can tell me. If you haven't heard about Jack's wedding in detail, then you need to jump on our Patreon, which... of course, I always urge you to all do anyway, because it's such a good place. You can grab a free trial, and even once you start paying, it's not a lot, and you get loads of good access to us and the rest of the Rank Squad. Hundreds of people over there ready to chat to you at any moment. By the way, I did meet one of you at the San Diego FC game at the weekend. Shouts out Sabre, who was from Australia, in San Diego, and came hurdling over rows of seats to say hello to me. Love that. So if you ever see me out and about, make sure you do say hello. But Jack, rank your top 3 things about your wedding. I mean, let's not mess about here. What else am I going to ask you?
Yeah, I wasn't quite there for the ranking. I thought you were going to ask me some questions, but
I'm not actually. I was going to, and I thought actually that's not what we do on this podcast. I mean, you already know in your head you can easily draw up a 3 because you know what your favourite thing was for the whole day, and you only got to think of 2 others, and nobody can argue with you. So.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I should have really been prepared with this. We flipped the episode around today. We're doing nonsense at the beginning, but this sounds...
Oh, you're calling your own wedding nonsense.
There you go. Look, I had the most incredible time. It was absolutely magical. And I feel like I'm sort of living in this kind of... I've woken up from a dream in so many different ways. Yeah. It was just the most incredible couple of weeks out there, and having all of my friends and family together in one place was mesmerizing in so many different ways. But I'll try to rank them for you. So at 3, I think the moment I turned around and Lucy was walking down the aisle to Zadok the Priest, which is a piece of music by Handel. For those of you that don't know, it's the original piece of music that the Champions League theme is based on. It's also an absolutely incredible choral piece of music. And we had a choir in the loft, and they launched into Zadok the Priest. And I turned around and Lucy was walking down the aisle, and it was like goosebumps, full shivers. I stopped myself from breaking into tears so I didn't become a proper meme. Mm-hmm. Like I cried a bit, but I didn't like proper like shoulders go like sobbing. So it was just incredible. And the choir were amazing for the entirety of it. We weren't sure what they were going to be like because we'd never had the chance to hear them in the flesh before, but they were incredible. And so that moment of kind of it all opening up and it all starting and then walking down the aisle was the most incredible thing I think ever. Number 2, I'm going to go with our first dance, which I wasn't sure was going to be loads of fun, but I really enjoyed. So we had practiced. Lucy was a dancer in a previous life. So she put together a little routine. And I was like, are we going to remember this? Is this going to be a thing? Our first dance was to I Want to Be Your Lover by Prince. But in Portugal, and I think in Spain as well, but in Portugal, they have a thing where the bride dances with her father first. And then at some point you kind of hand over in the middle of it. So he wanted to do a little dance to Shostakovich's Waltz, which was lovely. So that started off, and I'd also pre-mixed it myself, and I'm really proud of this. Like, I pre-mixed the waltz into the start of I Want to Be Your Lover for Prince, where me and Lucy did about a minute and a half together. And then I mixed that into Dimitri from Paris's remix of I Want to Be Your Lover. So it all like this tempo sped up by about 20. And I was like, okay, this is really good. And I was really pleased with the kind of mix that I'd done. But also the dance went off without a fault. And everyone was like, oh, they're actually doing a little routine. That's quite sweet. So I really, really enjoyed that. And the moment where like our bit ended and you sort of like bounced across the stage, one-legged, trying to get everyone up to come and join, was like a very special moment as well.
That's nice.
But I think for me, the highlight of everything was coming into dinner. And so we'd had like our drinks and canapes and bits outside in the cloister, in the garden beforehand. It was very, very hot, but the garden was nice and shaded. So everyone was sort of in there meandering about. The food in there was apparently really good. I didn't actually get to taste any of my own canapes because I was being dragged from pillar to post. But we came in, we'd just taken a couple of photos and whatever, and they played Carnival de Paris. And we bounced into that room and everyone was up on their feet and like singing along or whatever.
Nice.
We sort of like did a couple of laps of the entire room. And honestly, if you could bottle that energy at that moment and sell it, you would be a millionaire. It was my favorite thing. And just the kind of moment of being there hand in hand, sort of dancing around and just being surrounded by all the people we love in this incredible monastery with this incredible kind of skyline above us, open air, fairy lights everywhere, and just this incredible view. It was breathtaking, and I would give almost anything to be in that moment once again.
Yeah, it's crazy, a crazy feeling, even just hearing you talk about it. Like anyone who's ever got married, and probably helps if you're still married and have fond memories of it, just gets taken back to their own wedding day. So you will have those memories now. And any wedding you go to, for the first while, to be fair, you're just thrown back into thoughts of your own day and how it felt to be stood there yourself. I don't think you really appreciate it when you go to all the weddings in your life until you've had your own. And then you're like, oh, wow, this is how everyone else felt while I was just thinking, where's the bar?
Yeah. I totally get it. It's so fair. So yeah, no, I'm completely with you. It was incredible. I had the most incredible day, and Lucy had the most incredible day as well. We both came back to earth with a bump when we landed back in London on Saturday, but it was truly magical from start to finish.
Oh, quality. Well, we're glad to have you back, mate, but also glad that you had a great time. The other thing I love, mate, is about football. So I'm going to talk about it. And
yeah, we'll get onto the proper stuff now.
Yeah. So football hasn't stopped. And in most people's eyes, that's because of the Club World Cup. Where, as we're recording this, Chelsea are actually winning 1-0 and João Pedro scored. So that's interesting. But I don't really think that's what's grabbed me. What I like, mate, is that I hadn't really thought about this until I was at the game at the weekend. But I now never have a break in a season in terms of the teams I support. I have Fulham and San Diego. One of those teams plays every weekend forever.
Forever and ever.
I mean, yeah, unless there's like there might be one weekend here or there where there's not a game. But San Diego MLS season is obviously running when the Premier League season ends and continues into when the Premier League restarts. And so until, I was stood there at the weekend, San Diego against Houston Dynamo, I was like, oh, I never stop watching football now. Like, I've always got a team to support. And so that's quite cool, because I'd have to say, like, it's taken not a lot of time to actually take to a new team. Now, not in the same way I support Fulham. It's different. But it helped that San Diego were brand new. So I was coming
I
in.
was just about to say this. Like you've kind of grown into them. You moved at the same time they started. I think that really does help in terms of buy-in.
It's massive. I haven't missed a beat. Like, I'm the same as everybody else here. And I probably I know, if you consider like what people know about this club, like I'm probably in the top few percent, like considering like I live and breathe football anyway. So I know the ins and outs of the players and the background of the team getting started and all that stuff, which a lot of the fans probably don't know, but they still love going. And so I have got into it more than I expected. What is interesting is that my kids have very differing views on this. This is interesting. You don't know about this. So, Reese had no interest in football until he went to San Diego FC for the first time. And he came, we went as a family, and he loved it. There were fireworks, there was flag waving, there was a lot of noise. I was like, oh, cool. That was nice. Reese had a good time. And he's now been back 4 or 5 times. Every game I go to, he asks if he can come. He stands there for the whole game. He watches everything. He doesn't take his eyes off it. He is so low maintenance, but loves it. Like, actually loves it. He knows the words to the chants. It's great. And he's gone from literally not enjoying football at all to now coming to every San Diego FC game. Every day he's out there playing now. He's got a ball and he's playing in the goal with Dylan or without Dylan if he's not around. And that's changed. Dylan, meanwhile, who has loved footballer since exiting the womb, doesn't really care about San Diego FC. Doesn't really care. The last 2, I said to him at the weekend, I was like, Dill, I've got a ticket for Reese because I've managed to pick up a spare. Do you want me to try and get another one? Do you want to go? No. No? Nah, I'm all right. I watch a bit of it on TV with Mum and I'd play FIFA. I was like, why? Like, why don't you want to come? He said, I just prefer Fulham. I said, that's me too. Like, don't get me wrong, me too. Like, I just need to put that. I do prefer Fulham. I was like, but we're not.
It's on your doorstep, right?
We're not there. Yeah. And he's like, oh, it's okay. I'll just wait. I don't know what he's waiting for. I don't know what he's waiting for.
Coming home at the end of this.
Yeah. So Dylan's waiting to go to Fulham again. He said he said, I will come to San Diego, but I'll wait for some big games. So that's where we're at with that. But overall, yeah, I just realised that I love football and that I never now have to stop watching a team that I actually like playing football. So that's good. San Diego FC lost that game, by the way, 4-3, despite leading 3-2 and should have won the game. So that was a blow, but I'll be back for the next one.
If that hasn't put Reese off, then I think we're in a good space.
Well, he left at 3-3, so he doesn't know.
He's going to come back in and be like, good point last week, boys. Good stuff. Everyone's going to be like,
It was late at night and Houston got a penalty in something like the 84th minute or something. They clashed with the goalkeeper and the keeper got a bloody nose from it. And so there was a long stoppage. So we waited for the penalty. They scored to make it 3-3. And by this stage, it was like 9:30 at night. And I was like, Reese, we've got to go. And then I was like, there's probably going to be another goal, whatever. There was 17 minutes of added time. We were home by the time the game had finished. And I just left it. They scored right at the end of added time. And I was like, he doesn't need to know that.
No.
Doesn't need to know.
Keep him sweet. Keep him sweet at this point. It's all good. Very good. That's made me smile. That Reese has dived headfirst into SDFC.
He really has, mate.
Also, I suppose it's interesting because that's his introduction, right?
Exactly. He doesn't know any different.
Whereas Dylan's is very different in terms of atmosphere, in terms of what it's like, in terms of how he sees it. Even I imagine your position in terms of where you're watching it from.
Where we watch it from is almost identical.
Is it?
It's almost identical, the spot. Because it's open stat, it's a supporter section, so you can kind of choose where you go. It only changes because the seats are locked, so it's supposed to be a standing section. So all seats in that section are like locked at the top, so you can't sit down. But Reese, as soon as he gets to the game, he'll go along each row and he'll just bang each seat until he finds one that's loose, and then he'll bang it until it comes down. and that's where he's going to be.
He stands on the seat.
And then he stands on the seat. Yeah, exactly. He sits down at half time, but he stands on the seat for the whole game. And generally, I've been quite lucky because I have an area which is almost exactly the same as where I would stand in the Hammersmith end. It's just, it just occasionally further across depending on where he gets the loose seat. So yeah,
I'm sure it's not got a massive pillar in the way of your view.
There's not a massive pillar in the way. That is 100% true. I do not any longer have an obstructed view.
No, absolutely not. That's a good thing. I think the best of times for everyone involved. Right, we'll take a little break there. When we come back, we're going to get into the main thrust of this episode, which is talking about transfers that have already happened that we really like. Don't go anywhere. Hello, Rag Squad. When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Aviator Nation, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand and brilliant marketing, but an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the businesses, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, who are home of the number one checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning that there are way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So, if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. It's no secret, businesses that want to grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ranks, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ranks to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/ranks.
Running a business is hard work. Building your website shouldn't be. With Wix, you can express your ideas, give direction, then leave the heavy lifting to AI. From site creation to branded content and images. Have fun with the details. Customize what you want the way you want. And manage your whole business from a centralized dashboard with expert AI tools. Build, scale, and enjoy the incredible results. You can do it all yourself on Wix.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you.
For a limited time, you can get a free pocket pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just go to getcopperhead.com. That's getcopperhead.com for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Getcopperhead.com.
Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Welcome back to Ranks FC. We're starting to talk some transfers that have caught our eye for good reasons. Those done deals that we both individually like. It's a little bit loose and fast. I was thinking about calling this episode New Faces at New Places, but I thought we'd just stick with something quite sensible, ranking transfers that we like so far. And obviously we've talked about certain deals across the course of the last couple of weeks. We're not going to talk about Florian Wirtz here again, despite the fact that I really like that transfer because we've done it. So we're going to try and get some new names in here and some new discussions around some players that have been on the move this summer. But Dean, in this segment, you're going to pick a couple that you really like. And then in part 3, I'm going to flip the script and do it my way.
Yeah, cool. So we obviously haven't had anything like amazing happen, but there's been the threat of it, when you consider Arsenal trying to do some big things at the moment. There's the Mohamed Kudus stuff, which is rumbling around as to where his next club is going to be. Newcastle obviously are signing Elanga, and they're looking to do some other decent business. So there's within the Premier League, and Man United's and Burmo chase still going on as we talk about this. So a lot of the stuff hasn't happened yet, to be fair. But there is some interesting bits that, as I consider it more strongly, I am actually more intrigued by. At number 3, I'm going with Milos Kerkez joining Liverpool, around £40 million. Early 20s, a new left back, which Liverpool wanted as fresh competition for Robertson. And I think that's interesting that before Robertson's legs go, they're already kind of moving on from it, and he'll compete for the place. I don't think Robertson, if he wants to stay, is completely done. Tsimikas might be. But ultimately, they are introducing something fresh here. And so why are they signing Kerkez? Well, it's his energy and pace, right? Slot is going to be introducing what I'd probably describe as a high-octane system coming into this new system. This new season, it's going to change from last term. And when you consider Kerkez, he's Premier League proven, considering he's played 70-odd games at Bournemouth. But he's also, in terms of having an engine, one of the top 5 players in the league. He covered over 230 miles, and he racked up 843 sprints last season. And this is kind of reflective of what they want, not just on that side, but on the other side as well, because obviously Jeremy Frimpong is coming in over there. I equally probably could have picked Frimpong here. Maybe it's a duo thing that I like. I like the fact that this new intensity down the sides, having engines on both flanks, is just going to create a new Liverpool. They're going to be relentless. And what they will also do is transform the players around them in terms of the way that they work. I am extremely intrigued to see what we get from Florian Wirtz. I do think that at times we'll see him play off the left, but not as you would expect a player to typically play off the left. But I don't think that that's the long-term aim anyway. I think they want him to end up more centrally. And I think that the fact that Kerkez is going to be bombing down there allows us to see that. We'll wait to see what happens with Luis Diaz, who is still being chased by Barcelona and Bayern Munich. Still, as I understand, would be very open to leaving Liverpool. Certainly for Barcelona, possibly for Bayern Munich. We'll have to wait to see. Liverpool don't want to sell Luis Diaz, so that might get changed. I think that Andy Robertson, if he stays, will still have such a professionalism about him that he won't let Kerkez rest. So Kerkez has to be good. And I think that that's good for club and the players, that there's such a high level of competition there. And I've seen a few people as well talking about the fact that Szoboszlai, someone that Kerkez already knows, is already at the club. Again, another big factor in helping him settle. So they've got this really athletic fullback duo. They've got a player that's Premier League proven, that's got an unbelievable engine. He's rapid, and he can change the format of play towards something new that Arne Slot is looking to transition towards as Liverpool now defend their title. And of course, he'll influence the star signing Florian Wirtz, who has to be able to flourish within that system. So when it happened, I was like, good signing. The more I think about it, I'm like, very good signing and almost certain to be in my FPL team from game week 1.
Yeah, I agree. I really like this. And I think you're absolutely right about the kind of double fullback bit here that's going on, because obviously it's not going to be the same in every game, but it feels like a bit of a move towards the old kind of flying fullbacks that we saw, a variety of clubs. But, the one that springs to mind is kind of Jordi Alba, Dani Alves, right? Like absolutely bombing forward, motoring forward on both sides in order to create and provide the width for a team that doesn't necessarily have all that much natural width within it. And I think that that's going to be a really interesting move from a Liverpool perspective if we do see them unleashed together as fullbacks, Frimpong and Kerkez, in terms of who drops in, what that team shape actually looks like, and how much they can get out of both of those. You think back to, obviously, that great fullback combination of Robertson and Trent when they were, at their pomp and knocking in kind of double figures assists on both sides of the pitch. And you're thinking, yeah, that's a real possibility again. And that's got to be an exciting thing from a Liverpool perspective, right? That you can see both of these fullbacks getting into those areas and making things happen. And I think that change, I think, I've said it before, I think City will go to that kind of moment as well now. We've seen they've already brought in Ryan Aït-Nouri. I think they will bring in a right back as well to be able to get forward and provide the width for a team that now has a kind of abundance of number 10s playing across that forward line behind the striker. That's going to be an interesting development. And look, we always talk about the wheel of football continuing to turn, right? And the fact that systems go in and out of fashion. We see these kind of differing things happening, and you're thinking, I've seen that before, but in a different sort of variation. And I wonder if we're just starting to see a new turn on that dial with Liverpool and potentially Man City as well, going back into full fullback mode to be able to create all of those elements from those wide areas, and them being the players that hold the width to make things happen. I think could be a very, very interesting development for next season. So we'll see how it goes, but I think you're right. This is a very exciting signing.
Yeah, nice one. At number 2, I've gone for one that's a little bit different, and this is good because it gives us a new player to talk about and also a new team that we don't often talk about. But Igor Jesus is, I think, a really impressive deal for Nottingham Forest, especially as the price seems to be something around £10 million, at least initially. Now, back in Brazil, this news hasn't gone down particularly well with Botafogo fans who are gutted to lose him, and I think feel like they've been ripped off a bit. I think that they feel they could have got a lot more for this player and that he's going to be very difficult for them to replace. He's done well at the Club World Cup, scored twice before they were eliminated, scored against Seattle Sounders, scored against PSG, which is pretty significant. And when you look at the profile of the player, I think it's a really interesting fit, especially as Forest looks to now grow into a team that are taken more seriously. He's versatile in that he will be very difficult to track. He can get involved in the build-up play. He'll also get involved in the goals and assists. He makes some really smart runs. I mean, I can't say that I watched loads of him live when he was at Botafogo, but obviously since the move and since the rumours around him across this summer, I've been making sure to get a glimpse of what he's about. He has really good work rate. So I think that there's a lot to be said for this player who apparently has a really good character too. He checked in with Murillo before making this move to Nottingham Forest to make sure that he was convinced that it was the right move for him. You don't want to come to the Premier League and be a flop. So you've got to know that the team makeup and the club itself is a good fit for you. So he's checked in on that. But his blend of technical ability and being able to graft suggests to me that he's going to be a very good addition to them. Now, obviously, last season, Forest got perhaps kind of lucky that Chris Wood had the season that he did. I don't know what we'll get from Chris Wood next season. I don't know how much more we can expect. Chris Wood is 33 years old. He's a different style of player to him as well. But clearly, Forest are looking to be forward-thinking here, and they keep looking towards this Brazilian market. There are other players from there that could yet end up landing too, as they look at it as a good model to build upon. And I think this player could be one to watch once he gets settled and understand what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think that this is one of those players who's had this kind of moment and growing up away from the spotlight. His career path is super interesting. He left Brazil at 19 to go to the United Arab Emirates and sort of spent 4 years kind of out the spotlight. Then Botafogo picked him back up and was like, right, okay, we're going to bring you back home. He said, basically, I want to play for the national team. I think it was 19 games it took him for Botafogo to make his mark enough that he was picked by Dorival Jr. for the Brazil national team, where he went and scored on his debut appearance. I really like the kind of all-roundedness. And we've talked before about kind of complete strikers, right? Players who can kind of do a little bit all of it. He's very, very good off the shoulder. He said, as you say, his off-the-ball work rate is exceptional. He's quick and that he can kind of make those moves, but also his hold-up play and bringing others into play makes sense. So I think from a Forest perspective, I'm looking at it and going, yeah, I can see what you're trying to do here. And I think this is one of the things that we look at with signings, right? When we talk about, players picking up good deals and whatever, but you're like, do they fit? Do they fit into the model of what you're trying to do? I think that Igor Jesus feels like the kind of player that is going to be able to naturally slot into that number 9 role at Nottingham Forest. What it means for the likes of Taiwo Awoniyi, I don't really know yet, right? I don't know if that means that his time at the club is up, whether they're going to phase out Chris Wood on account of his age. I feel that would be very harsh after what he did last season. But I think in Igor Jesus, they have a player who just has the capacity to kind of do a lot of everything, right? He can play. If they need a player to hold play up and bring others into play in transition, then he can do that. We've seen him be able to do that in Brazil. But also, if they want to have a striker who's able to get in behind and change the kind of face of it, he's very good at losing his marker. He's very good at kind of being shifty and deceptive, despite the fact that he's quite a big fella, to enable to actually get away from players who are trying to track him and receive in space, which is a massively good trait. Now, whether that transfers or not, obviously yet to be seen, but the opening signs look very, very good from where I'm standing. And I think that if you're Forest right now, well, what are you trying to do? So this year, obviously, they were such a transitional team. We saw them be a team who really hurt teams in the counter-attack. And actually, when teams sat back a little bit more and were able to kind of put those low blocks together, Forest struggled a little bit more with that. Now, I wonder if we're just starting to see a little bit of a change of how they're going to operate next season. They'll still be able to operate like that when they play in Europe, when they play on the continent. I don't think people are going to look at them in the same way as perhaps they would look at a Chelsea or an Aston Villa, for example. And that's fine because it will open up spaces for Forest to exploit. But I think the flip side of that is in the Premier League, people know what Forest are about now. And if they think they're going to get the same response to the way that they play next year, then I think that they're probably in for a slightly rude awakening. So bringing in a number 9 who's a little bit more versatile, who has a little bit more of a roundedness to his game than perhaps a Chris Wood. Yes, more raw and definitely not as proven in terms of the Premier League. So I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, he's 100% going to be a success. But in terms of the vision and what they're looking at here, I completely understand where they're going. And that, I think, is the thing that is good with Forest, because for a while it did feel like they were just buying everything and hoping that some of it suck. Whereas they feel like they're now in a place where you need to change that operation. You need to change the business model in order to be able to be smart with it. And obviously, Edu has gone in there now and is part of the whole operation in terms of director of football and director of football operations, whatever the exact title is. And it does probably coincide with Forest needing to just wisen up a little bit, not be able to kind of just throw money at everything again. And I think that feels like a really good space for them to be in. And he feels like a very, very good start to what should be a new era for Forest in terms of the way that they're spending money.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be very interesting to see what Forest can do next season, as it will be interesting to see what this team can do. At number 1, I've gone for Matheus Cunha, and I've surprised myself here.
Wow.
This one has grown on me. It's grown on me because actually it seems more important now than it did when he signed. Because he signed so early, I assumed that by the time we got to pre-season, other things would have happened and that maybe Cunha wouldn't be like so influential to how their season goes. But this lad has to deliver. As we sit here right now, the Mbermo deal hasn't been concluded. They're still trying. But at £62.5 million, they have managed to get Cunha, and there is pressure, and there is no bedding in period. He's got to hit the ground running. He's got the number 10 shirt, and he's got the weight of Old Trafford on his shoulders. Now, I've been harsh on Cunha. Look, I am concerned about his discipline. I am concerned about the fact that his goals kind of come out of nowhere, which some people will look at as a positive, but I'm like, it's not something you can rely on. Like just hitting one from somewhere random, you can't be sure. But then I said the same about Bruno Fernandes when he joined.
Yeah, I was going to say, the evidence suggests otherwise, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you can hit a ball well enough, then you're fine. But it's still about finding the right pockets and about getting those shots right. And yeah, I'm not sure what the XG is going to be compared to the output, but nevertheless, United have to use this to their advantage because what they do need is someone with an ego. They need someone with a drive, and they need someone with belief that they are better than everyone else. And what impressed me even more, actually, was reading from Cunha why he's joined United and actually how deep this runs. So I think a lot of people were like, what is he doing? He could have gone to Arsenal. He could have gone to Chelsea. He could have gone to Newcastle. He could have, whatever. Why has he gone to Man United? Well, according to Cunha, lifelong dream. He says for him, no one else is like Man United, and that this is something he's always dreamed of. So, obviously, like Brazilian, grown up in a beach city, thousands of miles away from Manchester, you're kind of like, well, why? What was it about Man United? And he kind of went on to explain that, like, in his house, didn't have the channel to watch any Premier League. His cousin supported Man United, but he didn't have the Premier League either. And he was like, every Saturday, we had to go over to my grandma's house and I would watch Man United every single week. He said, and since then, it's just been inside of me. Even when we were playing on gravel, we used to call it Old Trafford. And he's like, talks about how emotional it is for him. Now, I obviously know from reporting on the transfer that Cunha gave United his word pretty early on. But I didn't really realise that it was because of this. And like, obviously players have said this before. Oh, I've always dreamed of playing here. And then later on you see like a picture of them in a completely different shirt. But this kind of felt genuine. And it helped change my outlook on Cunha's will to succeed here. Because not only do you want to do it from a personal and professional point of view and to prove people wrong, but if he's watched United in the good and the bad days, and now knowing that he's kind of the emblem of a new era, I fancy him a bit more to actually do it. And I can kind of see a bit more why United would be pinning their hopes on him. Like, he's a really good player. Like, I've never doubted that he's a good player, and like he can do amazing things with the ball, and he'll get the Stretford end off their seats and stuff, which is what you want. I was just kind of concerned about the consistency and whether he really had what it took to get a club like this off the floor and hitting the kind of areas of, you know, world football that they should be in. But I like it now, more than I have before. And I'm really excited to see whether he can actually live up to the hype.
Yeah, I mean, I still have my concerns, I'll be honest. I think the disciplinary concerns remain. You know, there were bits of last season that were really kind of ugly from a Matheus Cunha perspective. We saw those kind of scraps off on the pitch, you know, in games, but also after the certain games as well. And it just all got a little bit nasty from where I was standing. And look, United could deal with a little bit of spine, a little bit of spite at times as well. So I'm not saying that that's all a bad thing. I do think there is just a level to this where there's a lot being pinned on one player. And it reminds me a little bit of when like Zlatan came in and they were like, right, here we are, the savior has arrived. Now that works to an extent, right? Like in terms of actually what was won, and there were trophies in the cabinet, etc. But did it take United to the level that they wanted to be? I'm not 100% sure that anyone's going to make that argument. Not that, he wasn't a good player, and you could argue the same for someone like Edison Cavani. But actually, generally, is it good to pin everything on one bloke? I think that's been an issue, right? And I don't think that should be the case for United again going forward. They need to be able to share that load. It needs to be a work ethic and a team ethic in order to actually take this forward. I think that Cunha will do just fine, right? Like, and I think that if you said to me now, we would fast forward to the end of next season, someone said, oh, Matheus Cunha scored 15 Premier League goals for Manchester United, I'd say, yeah, fair enough. That's probably exactly where I'm expecting him to be. And that's a good return, right? Like, that's not to knock that at all. Is it going to be the thing that lifts United back into the Champions League conversation? I don't know. And I think that there needs to be more pieces of the puzzle added in order to actually make sure that this is a success. You need to surround him with the right players. You need to have a midfield too that are going to work hard behind Matheus Cunha, because he's not going to be that guy, that comes in and drops in when time's tough. He's going to be looking for the moments to get on the ball and change the flow of the game, which is necessary. But it also means that you have to structure a team correctly around him. And at the moment, I don't believe United are doing that. I don't believe United are going to get to that point by the end of this summer. And for me, that's where I kind of fall down on this transfer, not because he's a bad player and not because he doesn't have the capacity to make a difference on his own, but because I think that the structure around him is not going to cater for him in the way that it perhaps should. So I like it individually as a transfer. Do I think it's going to be the game changer that a lot of people are poking it out as? I don't know. I think that that's probably a stretch too far from where I'm sitting, but I can understand the reasons why that you think that it's a good deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's just seeming like it more has to be now. Like, I assumed in Birmingham.
That's what I was thinking. Like, is it one of those where this has gone from being like, oh, that could work to, oh, this has to work?
Well, yeah. I mean, when he signed, I thought, well, this will be good because once they get another midfielder in, / maybe even another 10, plus they're going to get a striker, plus they're going to get a new goalkeeper. Like, Man United are going to look good in pre-season.
Yeah.
And now
I'm agreed with that.
They've still got Onana in goal. They haven't got a midfielder to go in alongside Ugarte, and Bruno Fernandes is probably going to end up playing there if they do sign Mbeumo. If not, then Fernandes is further up. And I don't know, Casemiro might be playing the first game of the season. And they haven't got a striker. They haven't managed to get rid of Højlund. And they don't really know where they're going with that scenario. So now I'm like, oh, Cunha's got to work.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that pressure is going to be something he thrives upon or something that sometimes it can suffocate a player, especially at Old Trafford. We've seen that before.
And it's not beyond the realms that in those early weeks, if they're still struggling for a number 9, that Cunha ends up playing there. Like, that is not the plan. That is not what they've signed him. But they don't want to play Højlund there if he's still hanging around at that point. And they're good. I know for a fact it's been kind of considered as an option. And there's still Xerxes in the mix, and you've still got like Diallo, you've still got Mason Mount, like Garnacho's still at the club right now. Obviously, there's no plans for him to be involved. So they've got quite a few people that can play that sort of 10, but
very few that can play the 9.
Very few that could actually play as the centre forward. And if they really have to, Cunha could do it.
We'll see. I feel like that would be a waste of his talents in many ways, but we shall see. All right, we're going to take a little break there. When we come back, we're going to flip this script. I'm going to add some more that I quite like over the course of the summer so far. Stick with us here on Ranks FC. Hello, Rank Squad. When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Aviator Nation, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand and brilliant marketing, but an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the businesses, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, who are home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning that there are way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So, if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. It's no secret, businesses that want to grow with Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ranks, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ranks to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/ranks.
No offense, but your brain is a terrible place to keep your big idea. It belongs in the world, but you know that already. You have a calling, a voice that says, this is what I'm meant to do. Create the website your big idea deserves with Wix. Make it your own with top-to-bottom customization, AI to help realize your vision, and built-in business tools to turn your daydream into your dream job. Wix supports every stage of the business journey except one. Your decision to begin. Ready? Go to Wix.com.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you.
For a limited time, you can get a free pocket pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just go to getcopperhead.com. That's getcopperhead.com for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Getcopperhead.com.
Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Welcome back to Ranks FC, where married man Jack Collins is now going to rank his top 3 deals of the summer so far. And I'm intrigued to know how niche he's gone here.
I prefer ring bearer. That's what I'm going with. So that's the name I'm gonna run with over the course of it. So that's where we're at. I like that you ended with Cunha because it rolls really, really nicely into what I want to do, where I was going to start at number 3, where I'm going Fer Lopez, who has gone from Celta Vigo to Wolverhampton Wanderers. And it's been mooted as not the direct Cunha replacement because he's still very young and still very raw. But I really like this bit of business from a Wolves perspective. Now, Fer Lopez has had a really, really rapid rise to the top. He started his first game for Celta's first team in December. And so we're talking about a player who's only played 6 months, really, of senior football at this point. So this is a gamble. But basically, there was a weird thing in Fer Lopez's contract, and Celta fans are absolutely furious about this, and rightly so, that Jorge Mendes basically found a way through the contract, because when he signed as a senior player, basically his release clause was meant to go up to 40 million euros. But because he was still effectively on a youth contract until the 1st of July, the release clause was set in there at 20 million euros. So Wolves have gone in here, and it's 19 million pounds. I reckon it's about a 22 million euro deal. And they have absolutely undercut the market. Now, at 40 million euros, I don't think Fer Lopez was going anywhere. I don't think anyone was going to gamble that kind of money on a player who has only really done 7 months. But at 20 million euros, 19 million pounds, you are talking about a really, really sensible gamble. Someone who's been prolific through the course of the youth setups. And look, I think he was pretty happy to stay at Celta and be a part of that European adventure that they're about to embark on. But equally, this has come up and the club did need to make a sale. And suddenly you're kind of looking at it and thinking, okay, that's an option. And he's going to go into this Wolves side. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't start to begin with. He is still very, very raw. But a left-footed player that has played off the right-hand side, I think he will work well in the kind of double 10 system if Wolves persist with that under Vitor Pereira over the course of this season. And I think that he is already capable of the sublime, right? We're starting to see a player here whose output wasn't brilliant last year, 2 goals, no assists over the course of the second half of the season, but his creative numbers in terms of carrying, his work rate and his work ethic in those spaces, and his ability to beat a man are really, really exciting. He can shoot from distance. He's capable of those kind of sublime moments early on and is able to make something out of nothing. And when you're looking at a player like that, you're thinking, well, who is going to come in and replace Matheus Cunha? I'd imagine that for a fair bit of the season, or for at least the start of the season, we see Pablo Sarabia given the ability, the time and space to continue in his little role there, right? And someone who's going to be able to play off the striker and is a solid performer, if a little bit unspectacular. But I think that Fer Lopez will start to be rotated in, and if he takes his opportunities, he has the ability, I think, and the potential to get in there and suddenly be like, whoa, there's a new kid on the block here. And we really, really like his directness. We really like the way that he takes players on. We really like the fact that he tracks back and he works back. And Wolves fans will be looking at that and saying, hang on, he's already doing the off-the-ball stuff that Cunha wasn't doing. He's already doing the things off the ball that we lacked when Matheus Cunha was on the pitch. He's got a really good relationship with Jørgen Strand Larsen, who's become a permanent deal at Wolves as well this summer. Obviously, he signed on loan from Celta Vigo last year. I think the two of them have been on holiday together this summer, which is quite a nice little bit. So he's got someone to blend in with. He's got, you talked about it with Milos Kerkez and Sobostai, for example. He's got someone in there that he knows well and will put an arm around him and introduce him to everyone else to make sure that he feels comfortable in that locker room. And I think at this price point, Wolves have taken a little bit of a gamble on a young player from Iberia. We've heard this before, right? And sometimes they end up as a Fabio Silva, and sometimes they end up as a kind of Ruben Neves, right? So there is that kind of gamble that you're taking on players like this. But at this price point, with the innate talent and ability that Fer Lopez has, I think this is a really, really exciting signing for Wolves. And I would be surprised if by the end of the season, he isn't a starter in this team, or at least has made a big impact over the course of the second half of the season. It might take him a little while to get going, but I really, really like this deal. I think it's a really sensible signing. And I think in terms of buying someone with the potential to not only kind of double, triple their value at that point, but also someone who has the capability to lift this team immediately after a big loss in Matheus Cunha. That's a real one that Wolves fans can get their teeth into and be like, oh, that's exciting. I really like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that they'll enjoy being surprised, I think. There'll be probably a younger generation of Wolves fans that are more tuned in to what the potential is here. But Wolves fans who are probably my age and above would probably just be like, yeah, don't know if that's the answer. And hopefully those guys are in for a surprise, because I've probably spoken to more people about him than actually I've seen him play football, but insiders, let's say, seem very excited about this transfer and the fact that Wolves were able to get him. There were certainly other teams looking at him. I don't know if they were necessarily convinced in the end that he was ready for them. But for Wolves and the way that they're building right now, they were convinced, and they're pretty sure that by the end of this season, it's going to be a successful signing.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's big for his age. He looked big in La Liga. Now, is he going to look big in the Premier League? Probably not. But I think he's got that kind of physical capability. He's really, really brave. You know, one of those players that's kind of unafraid to not only take on his man, but to get into contact, to get into duels with defenders as well. And I think that there's just an explosiveness about him that makes him a really exciting prospect. I really enjoyed watching him over the second half of the season for Celta as they went on that European charge. And the only real shame that I kind of feel is that he's not going to be able to play for his boyhood club in the Europa League and be able to be part of their European adventure. But I think that Wolves have got a very good one here. Just quickly, before I move on to number two, I also think that Celta have moved very quickly to sign a not a replacement in that they're different players, but they've spent a little bit of this money already, and they bought Ferran Jutgla from Club Brugge. Now, long-term listeners will know that I've been very hot on Ferran Jutgla for a while. We've seen him in the Champions League and in the Europa League for Club Brugge, and I've always been quite impressed with his movement and his all-round ability. He's very much more of a centre-forward than an attacking midfielder. Obviously, former Barcelona academy player, but I think he's done a really good job. And to be honest, I'm surprised that bigger clubs haven't been involved at bigger fees. He went for something like £4.7 million, which is around €6 million, sort of $8 million kind of space. And I think that, you know, I had a thing a couple of years back where I thought he was going to go for sort of 20 odd million to a Europa League level club. Now he's got the Europa League level move in Celta Vigo, but I kind of thought that someone was going to take a gamble on him earlier. And I'm surprised it's taken this long. But I think that this is a really good bit of business at that kind of price point for Celta in terms of replacing, you know, a player in Fer Lopez who was an attacking player. Now, how he's going to work with someone like a Borja Iglesias, what that's going to mean in terms of the way that Celta set up is yet to be seen. But I think that in terms of spending some of that money wisely, using a quarter of the fee that you get for Fer Lopez and bringing in a Ferran Jutgla feels like a very sensible bit of business for me. And I thought that was just worth mentioning. All right, and number two, you said at the start, you know, that Arsenal's business was still kind of on the edge. I think they've done a very, very smart bit of business with Martin Zubimendi. £56 million. It's just over their release clause number, and that's allowed them to play it in installments. So that's a big part of how this deal has kind of worked out. But after all the noise and after all the, Real Madrid are going to get involved, etc., Martin Zubimendi is an Arsenal player. Mikel Arteta has got his man. And I think this is very, very good from an Arsenal perspective. Now, Zubimendi is a tempo controller. I don't know if you saw the video that Arsenal did when they released, when they signed him. It was very sort of odd in many ways, but it was like a drum beat, an original piece of music by one of the Ezra Collective. And it was basically all about like tempo and rhythm and all of these things. And whilst that feels a little bit over the top, it is exactly what he does and exactly what he does best, right? Like he controls games. He allows games to be played at his own tempo. He's the one that maneuvers the pitch around to work to his own beat. And I think that having a player like Zubimendi, one, immediately allows you to push Declan Rice on further. And it's something you've spoken about a lot in terms of being able to unleash him as a goal scoring threat, unleash him in a creative potential. But also I think it gives you a player, and you never really got this with Declan Rice, who is comfortable receiving the ball on the turn. And Arsenal, the way that they build up, etc., I think is going to be massively, massively augmented by the fact that Zubimendi has that capacity to receive the ball under pressure. He's not bothered by the fact that he's put in these situations. He's very press resistant, and he allows them to just be able to build out better in these situations. He will take the ball under pressure from centre backs and be like, don't worry about it, I got this, and just knock it around and keep Arsenal moving. I think that in terms of what it allows you to do with the rest of this team, this feels like the pivot point finally that Arsenal's midfield, if it does look like Zubimendi alongside Rice and Ødegaard, or Marino goes into that number 8 role, whatever that looks like, I am quite excited to see exactly the kind of changes that allows Arsenal to put together. And I think that adding him to this midfield gives Arsenal, that point now where they're like, okay, we can stand up and say we've got one of the best midfields in the league, right? And I think that I've been very, very complimentary of Chelsea's midfield in terms of Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Romeo Lavia, and obviously now Andre Santos coming in there as well. I think that might be, the gold standard as far as I'm concerned for midfields. But I think with Zubimendi added, Arsenal go straight up to that level. That's the kind of competition we're talking about. That's the kind of level that Arsenal now are sitting at. And that's one of the best midfields in the world in Zubimendi, Rice, Odegaard, obviously then Marino as well, to kind of augment that, if you will, in different situations and in different ways. But I think that this is a huge possibility. And I know there will be people being like, Arsenal just spent £56 million on another midfielder when they still haven't got a striker through the door, etc., etc. But I do think this is an elevation signing in many, many ways. And I think Zubimendi is an incredible footballer.
Yeah, I mean, I barely count this as a signing for this summer because it was agreed so long ago. It was agreed last season. It's just taken this long to kind of been signed and sealed. But if you go back to the start of the year, Real Sociedad were, even before that, Sociedad were trying to get him to extend, and they wanted to increase his release clause, and they just wanted to keep him longer, basically. But know that when it came to the crunch time, they'd get more money for him. But Arteta worked wonders in getting his message across to Zubimendi, not just personally, but as a collective, about where this team was heading and how he would be part of the journey there. Obviously, there'll be more to come from Arsenal in this transfer window. That left-sided attacker, whoever that ends up being, Gyökeres obviously being closed in upon as the number 9 that they've been searching for, and this kind of tug of war with Benjamin Sesko as to who would end up playing there. Gyökeres looks to be the man as we record this. And yeah, I mean, this is significant business. Arsenal primarily believe that the reason they weren't successful last season is because of the goal output. And that's going to land on the shoulders of Gyökeres. He's got to deliver a lot of goals, but he's got to deliver big, important goals, right, in the moments when they're struggling. And that might mean that Zubimendi's influence goes under the radar a little bit, because they were already at a pretty good midfield. And what he's going to do, though, is upgrade it, and he's going to make it more modern, and he's also going to make them more relevant when it comes to those big occasions in Europe as well, which he's going to be able to kind of be Arteta's eyes on the pitch. I mean, Arteta was a very smart player himself, and in Zubimendi, I think he's identified someone that's got some of his own traits, and I think that he likes that. Obviously, he's a player from his region, and he'll know his characteristics inside out. So, yeah, I've probably overlooked this one because it's been in my mind for so many months, but I can't deny that this is going to be a really, really interesting signing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think this is a really, really smart move from Arsenal. And I think that it's one of those pitches that just elevates them again. It's just one of those moments that you go, okay, that could be a turning point in terms of next season. I'm sure that there'll be loads written about when that number 9 does finally come through the door. But I think Zubimendi's influence will go under the radar. But he is an excellent, excellent footballer. And number 1, I am going to go to an all-Spanish deal between Villarreal and Atletico Madrid. Alex Baena making the move to Atleti, £39 million ish, about 45 million euros. Baena is a creative powerhouse, and I'm really, really excited to see what happens with him with this Atleti side. We've seen over the last couple of months, or at least the last season, that kind of changed as Atleti started to kind of go through the gears in terms of players they were signing. We've seen Julian Alvarez really hit the ground running. I think Alexander Sorloth has been excellent in terms of having to play numerous roles, partly off the bench. I wonder if that increases next season, but I think Baena comes in here and you're like, okay, you finally got a player who has the creative kind of abilities to potentially phase out an Antoine Griezmann. And, long-term listeners will know how much of an Antoine Griezmann loyalist I am. I think that the man is absolutely electric. I think he is brilliant. I think Baena is cut from the same cloth. And I think that when you look at a player, he's played a fair bit on the left-hand side for Villarreal, but we saw him early on in his career playing as part of a front two. We've seen him play in central midfield as well as part of a three. You've got a really versatile footballer here who's able to just create things out of nothing. And with a player like Alvarez in front of him, with a player like Sorloth in the box, in there causing havoc, I think Baena is going to absolutely explode at Atleti. And so when you look at his last 2 seasons, I think it was 24 assists. He's been the kind of top scoring Spanish player in those regards, if you discount Lamine Yamal over one explosive season. But I think that when you put Baena's numbers through, and when you see what he's been able to do in this Villarreal side, the way that he's been able to kind of force them back towards the top of the table, he's been their creative fulcrum, he's been the hub from which so much has been created. This is a really, really exciting move, I think, from an Atleti perspective, because they're able now to have another player in there who is going to make things happen. And having someone who's so versatile is something that Simeone will like. He will love Baena's work rate as well. He's another one of those kind of players who's very, very silky on the ball and works incredibly hard off it. I really like his variation in terms of the way that he can create chances and what he can do with the ball, considering he's a relatively small footballer. That ability to kind of just get on the ball and make things happen. And, a spark player is what I always used to call them. He's very much one of those footballers. And I think this felt like the right time for him to make a move. It was important to find somewhere where he was going to get the minutes and that ability to drift across the pitch, which has been such a key part of his time at Villarreal. I think he will get this at Atleti. I think that they are going to let the reins off him and just be like, right, we're going to trust in you that you are going to be a creative force here for us. And I think that this is a really exciting time to be joining this Atleti side with the players that are going to be around him, with the kind of talent in different positions. I think the fact that he plays as kind of a central midfielder who has moved into a wide area is something that we've seen before from Simeone, but he has a far more creative kind of outlook on that role, and seeing what he's able to do in those areas, I think is going to be really, really exciting. So I think for me, this is probably my favorite of the big deals that have happened so far.
Oh, interesting. I mean, in a way, it's one of my least favourite because I wanted him in the Premier League. And I know that Man City had sniffed around it. I know that Aston Villa had sniffed around it a bit too. Certainly, they both could see how he might make that switch into English football and have big influence. But ultimately, he's gone elsewhere and he will shine. He will thrive. He is a brilliant player, an exciting player, and a really, really good signing. So I guess we have the playoff now, mate. Baena against Matheus Cunha.
You hadn't put Cunha top, I think I would have argued for you. But I feel like I'm really going to struggle with that. I mean, just on Baena, one last thing, like his range of passing and his ability to kind of put the ball on the sixpence in certain areas is so impressive. Like, I really, really like the way that he, keeps his head up. He's able to find those spaces, find those passes to bring players into play. I think that Alvarez is going to absolutely feed off playing with Baena. I think he is going to love it in terms of just getting those balls in behind, those kind of picked out passes to allow a player to run onto them, those kind of clever crosses that aren't necessarily seen in the same kind of way. He's not a player who's going to pick up the ball and dribble with it all that much. Like, he's not a complete carrier in the way that we've talked about some other players, Fer Lopez, for example. But I think his ability to find the right pass and pick it at the right time sets him apart from quite a lot of his compatriots right now, and that is an exciting thing for Atleti.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you probably win this one, mate, to be honest. Mine was coming from a different perspective. I think Baena maybe has less pressure. Maybe that helps him a little bit. But the less pressure, less profile might mean he flourishes more. But Cunha will certainly be making more column inches, whether he does well or whether he doesn't.
Yeah, I think you're gonna see more of what Matheus Cunha does, but quietly, I feel like Baena might be the smart move there. Just quickly before we finish up, a couple of like smaller moves that I really like. Maxime de Kuyper to Brighton from Club Brugge for £70.5 million. Really versatile player, mostly a left back, but does a lot of different things here. I think that's a really clever signing from a Brighton perspective. I really like Samuele Ricci, who's gone from Torino to Milan. This is exactly the kind of signing that Milan need to be making. A player who has the ability to go right to the very top of the game. A really, really clever, well put together number 6 who has a great passing range. There's a little bit of Pirlo in his game, kind of the deep lying player who's able to create, but also is quite a destructive player in different ways. I think that's a really smart signing from Milan, who finally look like they're starting to actually turn the screw on bringing players in, apart from letting everybody go. And just a really low key one that I think if he was 5 years younger, we'd be talking about someone who's going to be moved on for big, big money, but he's a little bit too old for that. Georgi Kokorashvili, who's gone from Levante to Sporting, who's a really, really interesting kind of number 6 type ball-winning player who did really well at the Euros last summer, I think, if you might remember. But he's just joined Sporting after getting Levante promoted for under £5 million. And I think that is an absolutely corking signing for Sporting as well.
Very good.
Just touch those in as well.
Nice.
Very good. Very good. Right, before we go, I just wanted to take the opportunity to pay tribute to Diogo Jota because this is something that happened between the 2 episodes, and it's been something that I've been thinking about a lot over the last couple of days. We spoke about it on our Patreon episode, but just the heart-rending nature of what's happened to Diogo Jota and to his brother Andre Silva is something that's really sat with me over the course of the last couple of days. And, we talked about this, Dean, but the idea of an active Premier League player passing away whilst in their prime is something that's we've never really experienced before. It's not been something that we've had to come to terms with over the course of the last couple of years. And I just wanted to take a moment to, obviously address it. It's been a difficult one. He obviously just got married as well in the same city and was driving home with his brother and best friend in terms of when the actual car crash happened. And the parallels weren't lost on me in some ways. Diogo Jota was someone who I've never heard anyone in the football sphere say a bad word about. Every single person who ever interviewed him, I've spoken to lots of them in the last couple of days, who were based like he was the perfect gentleman, a quiet man, a family man. And just this should have been the best summer of his life. Premier League champion, Nations League champion, just got married to the love of his life and his childhood sweetheart. And that's all been ripped away in such devastating fashion. It just felt wrong to let this episode pass without raising a glass to Diogo Jota and to Andre Silva, who was making his own path in so many different ways at Penafiel and making his own career after bouncing around between a number of teams. It just feels so incredibly cruel that we've had these 2 players and these 2 people ripped away from us at such a young age. And just thoughts with everyone associated with Liverpool, associated with Penafiel, with Porto, with Wolves, with Portugal, and everyone in the football community who's been affected by this, because I think it's something that hit us all pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, heartbreaking, disappointing, shocking. You could just go on and on. Like, it was just pure disbelief. And yeah, I think people have struggled and continue to struggle to completely get their head around it. Even yesterday, actually, I had like Fulham's season highlight show on YouTube just in the background while I was working. And they showed the Liverpool home game. And Fulham scored, but Diogo Jota was kind of involved in one of the players that kind of, I think, it broke down for Liverpool or something, and Fulham went on and scored, and I was like, oh, like, this is weird. Like, that's not that long ago. And like, there's things like that just go, oh, it's gonna happen a lot. It's gonna, like, there'll be times all through the coming season when we either see moments from a Liverpool game from last season, or there's a flag or a banner or a poster or a picture, or there'll just be these triggers, and we're all going to get that kick to the gut, because it's, there's not, I think I said on Patreon, like, I'm not really one that gets caught up in celebrity death and stories around it, because, it's so, it doesn't relate to your life and you don't know them. But with Jota, you're right, like, because it's the first current Premier League player that we can remember, like, anything like this happening to, it's just completely different, because it's like you did know him, and we're all in this football world and we live and breathe every single game day, every second that we can watch football or talk about football, we are. And whether you realise it or not, Jota was a big part of your life in recent years while he was growing in the game and becoming one of the best players in the world. And so for some, even if you think it hasn't affected you yet, it probably has and will when you least expect it. So yeah, big shouts out, especially to anyone who's, got Portuguese links or Liverpool links or any sort of links to the man himself. Extremely difficult and sadly missed.
Yeah, Diogo, Andre, descansa en paz. Yeah, a sad way to end this episode, but I thought it would be unjust to not talk about it and not address it, considering the magnitude of which it's hit the football community as a whole, I think, and the impact that it's had. So we hope that everyone is coping and doing okay off the back of it, because it was something that was incredibly hard to deal with and incredibly hard to swallow. And on that note, we're probably going to call this episode to an end. So all that's left for me to do is say thank you very much to Mr. Dean Jones.
Cheers, mate.
I've been Jack Collins. This has been Ranks FC. Thank you so much for listening as ever, and we will see you all very shortly, Rank Squad. Take it easy. Peace.
Running a business is hard work. Building your website shouldn't be. With Wix, you can express your ideas, give direction, then leave the heavy lifting to AI, from site creation to branded content and images. Have fun with the details. Customize what you want the way you want, and manage your whole business from a centralized dashboard with expert AI tools. Build, scale, and enjoy the incredible results. You can do it all yourself on Wix.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you.
For a limited time, you can get a free pocket pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just go to getcopperhead.com. That's getcopperhead.com for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Getcopperhead.com.
Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.